we were just talking about Guelph, and I've been to a lot of universities, and you're in really good hands. I love your program. I love your location. And I just love Canada. I also have a business partner in Canada. I wear a lot of different hats. I spent the first 10 years or so of my career doing urban design and project management, and then transitioned into the 3D world. I currently work for a company called Confluence. And I apologize. I have a bunch of presentations here that are open that I'm going to jump back and forth on. So sorry about that, but I have so much information and it's kind of compiled in different locations. And I do encourage also questions, please. And I also do the most popular lecture to date that I've given is actually a portfolio class, just if you're interested in that in the future too, because that's part of my job is assessing talent and skills. Confluence is a firm out of the Midwest. They have 9 offices. This work is not representative of what they do, but we'll get into that. And then just to jump around, give a little bit about my background in terms of wearing different hats. I'm very vested into technical modeling. I really enjoy the modeling aspect of that. At Confluence, I have 2 other staff that work with me full-time. And we train the rest of the staff. We have a list of people that we train in actually doing 3D. And we assess everybody's skills based off what that might look like. And I'll actually show you how we do that, because this is good information, because personally, it doesn't matter to me what you use for 3D modeling. I know that the demand is for SketchUp typically, and I know that Rhino is also being taught, but separate conversation. But what we do is every person in the office that we're working with, we're assessing and talking about skills. And we also have a certification system that we use, eval forms, and an overall training method. And the reason why I bring this up is because one of the things that happened with the implementation of AutoCAD was back in the 70s and 80s, 90s, you had the rise of the AutoCAD manager within a firm. And now what you're seeing in firms is the need for a technology manager. And that person needs to be vested and understand landscape architecture. In the past 2 years, I have helped 4 or 5 different individuals, all landscape architects, start their own digital studios in various firms. At this point, nobody can really actually find enough people that are really good at 3D. This is one person as an example of that training. His name is Avi. He runs a digital studio for an civil engineering LA firm. I'm actually not even sure where they're out of, but he works remotely. And, you know, playing with those styles and all these other graphics that you're seeing, these are from various people. Some of these are mine, but most of them are from other people that we've trained and work with and use, and just kind of just give you the breadth and width of the type of rendering work that's being done. And it used to be in the landscape architecture world that you would use 3D and rendering as a service, meaning, oh, we offer it as part of the project. You have to pay extra for it, but you know, it's still a service. And that's shifted in the past several years where it's required. It's still put into the budgets, but my position at my firm is a corporate one where I'm not required to be utilized. I don't have a utilization goal. I get one anyway, because we work on project work. And then I guess the other aspect of this is just kind of the types of different renders that you're seeing on the screen is really this combination of photorealistic, non-photorealistic, and kind of we encourage everybody to develop styles. We spend a lot of time talking about styles, and interestingly enough, I did a survey for a company separate to what I do about rendering output. And what we discovered was that rendering output is very subjective on what the person really likes to do. And I'm going to show you, sorry, this is for a splash pad. So let me get Alex. Hagraf. If you haven't heard of Alex Hagraf before, he's kind of my hero in terms of the visualization world, because his stuff is just absolutely beautiful. And it really talks about, what really makes a good rendering output is composition and texturing and an artistic quality that I personally don't have this kind of skill set. And he actually does, he has 2 people that help him. He uses about 1,000 to 2,000 layers in Photoshop for some of this work. And this is his full-time job. His business partner just runs the business and all he does is this creative work. God, it's beautiful. So, because there's the debate of, well, which rendering program to use, which modeling program to use, what's a really good output? That's part and parcel of the question of working in 3D in general in a firm, and what we try to address and teach. And speaking of that, I'm going to go here. So this is my website. It's danieltal.com. And if you want, the tutorials are a little bit older, but they are still effective, and I'll go over them. But use the promo code DANTAL100 to sign up, and you can get full free access. I'll keep this up on the screen somehow. And please share it with people who aren't here, who might be interested. I built this site specifically for students, honestly, so that I can sit there and teach you for 2 hours or do a full day demo, but honestly, you need the repetition. And the courses themselves, hopefully it lets me in here, really cover the basics, extensions, so the basics, and also all the way to terrain modeling. So that's something I would encourage and to do on your own time. And you do want, and I'm gonna segue into this again, so talking about training, the type of work that we do, and I'm going to segue this into drones. In our firm at Confluence, and I'll show you our homepage here. And if you want, maybe we can put this in the chat, but let's go to confluence.com. Actually, it's thinkconfluence.com. I think they would know this. This is the Quantico Marine Memorial. God, I worked on a lot of these. Crazy. They have 9 offices, and last year we went to ASLA. My boss and his friend who owned a firm in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and we're at dinner, and they just started talking about drones, and I was like, oh yeah, you need to implement drones. Fast forward a year later, my boss goes to ASLA again and meets his buddy, and they're fully implemented drones in their practice. And he comes back, he's like, you have 2 months to get everybody trained. And it's a competition thing. So as of right now, we have 9 offices, and I think we have 14 or 15 drone pilots. I don't even know. All of us in the digital studio, all of us are drone pilots. And I can't encourage it enough to actually go and have that as a skill as well. And I'm going to show you why in some level. And again, this one, here's another promo, and I apologize for this, but let's see if I can find all these slides. There we go. That one. So I wrote this book with John Elchild. It really does show you how to implement and get into drones, and also how to sell it internally at a firm. John Elchild's a landscape architect, and really the heart of the book is his. And he's probably, I will not lie, the best drone and photogrammic pilot in the country. The stuff he's doing is cutting edge. He works with Pix4D. He implements it to graphics, and he's doing it for trail systems. Like he uses multiple drones, including this really big one called the Matrice 300, which is this carbon fiber drone that has multiple sensors, but he's pushing the upward limits of what LAs are doing with it. Confluence is my 3rd office, And this is the third office where we built a drone studio. And to talk about that, let's see if it's in here. This is all graphics, sorry. Let's go. Any questions? Let me slow down for a second because I just threw a lot of stuff at all of you. So anybody got any questions or comments? I don't know if I can. So this was a project we just did for a low-income neighborhood in Kansas City. We went out, flew the drone. And this is one of the favorite things we love to do, is then do these drone photo matches. And this is a combination of SketchUp, Lumion, and Photoshop to create this graphic. And we did 3 of these. I absolutely love them. I didn't work on these, other people did. We actually had one of our drone pilots in one of our offices go out. We help them choose the shots. We help with the logistics of the drones. And then, you know, we go in there and we use photo matching or whatever other tools we need to do to create an effective graphic. So that's one of the first things and the most prominent things that we have been doing with drones. But I'm going to show you the more detailed, nuanced stuff here. All right. So, for example, here's a 3D model that we created, and then after it got built, you know, it's nice to go out there and see your work confirmed. If you want to learn to take the drone exam, the easiest thing is to get licensed. It's easy. You should all go in, buy the course, and share it. I think this website's changed though; they got purchased by somebody. But and actually, this is for FAA, but I think it's very similar for Canada. You probably have to really confirm that now that I'm talking too much. You know, we have to run a drone studio, and we come up with estimates and costs, and then we use a lot of different apps. The primary apps that we use vary, but it's Pix4D capture, Pix4D for processing information. There's one called Litchi, which is what you're seeing on the screen here, which if you fly manually to capture video, it bounces around. You know, you can't do it. Litchi lets you pre-prep. Litchi is an app that lets you do pre-planned flights that are smooth. You can change the speed, it'll adjust the cameras. And again, like we've done a lot, like this is the top of Pikes Peak, where they're putting in this new visitor center and using drones for both site analysis, you know, capturing aerials and bird's eyes, but really like the aerials are pretty amazing. So here's one site in Centennial, Colorado. You know, you can zoom in, and with the drone, like, you know, it says linen right there. Like, so you're getting all the way down to several inches worth of resolution. I mean, the fact that you could see the dots, and the fact that you're the person in control of this, like this is the democratization of remote sensing. You know, you're not contacting a company, you're putting this all under your own control. You know, and it also lets us make some really effective graphics. So how does it work? I mean, so this whole site was built off drone telemetry. So this is what you would do called photogrammetry. So we went out and we scanned 5 miles of I-70 going up into the ski resorts in Colorado and produced this data set for a civil engineering project. The nice thing about flying a drone is you get out of the office, or in my case, out of my house. The drone data is phenomenal because of what you can do in terms of cutting sections, doing cut fill calculations, doing different types of measurements. This is something called Trimble Point Cloud, Trimble Scan Essentials. It lets you bring in point cloud data into SketchUp, view it and model from it in a limited fashion, and that's going to change. You're going to see a lot of 3D modeling companies that are going to start creating these automated meshes soon from all this data. So that's another thing to consider in terms of the future of this information is you're going to go capture a site because you're going to go do a site visit. You're going to get the data. You're going to go create a 3D model out of it that you're going to end up using. And then again, we use it through construction to track cut fill, what resources have been used, what piles have been moved, to do slope analysis also. And all of this is done in the cloud. So it's your whole project team, the civil engineer, the geotech, if there's an architect involved, everybody has access to this information. You know, for example, you're seeing here Pix4D to process the information. And this is the area where we did this redevelopment and wanted to capture the data, and particularly wanted to capture the terrain. So what you could do with this data when you capture it from a drone is very simple. Through these options, there's the aerial. Well, I can go in there and I can get it classified, and it will cut terrain for me. And then I can take that terrain model and then I can actually use it in SketchUp and start overlaying my design. And then just as important was the need to do view shed analysis, because the people in this neighborhood were not particularly pleased by having this massive development next to them. And also shadow analysis and study. And then, you know, finally, you know, getting these into like final graphics. So we use drones quite a bit for a lot of different work. And that's not going to change anytime in the future. It's only going to start progressing a little bit further. You know, so in terms of if you have the bandwidth, it's a great thing to have on your resume. You know, you walk into the office, I guarantee you most firms are probably at the point where they have some kind of drone expertise in their firm. And having a landscape architect as the drone pilot is ideal. You get to work with all the different types of data. You know, we're doing this for a lot of ecological restoration, especially in the Midwest right now, to go out there and capture the drones. There's infrared drones, so they capture moisture levels and moisture health, not just in crops, but in also, you know, various native groves or whatever it might be. So yeah, so that's drones. And I'm gonna jump ship a little bit here. And Litchi is an app. It's a $30 app that basically lets you, if I log in, I can go to my desktop, I can go to the location, and I can pretty much just set all the paths and all the nodes. So you basically click on the nodes, and then for each node, you could set the speed, the camera angle, and the transition. Do you want a curved transition or a smooth transition? And then you just literally go out to the site. It's an old drone. And it just literally takes off, goes up, and does it by itself. We figured this out the hard way. We were at the top of Pikes Peak and thinking we're cool, we start flying the drone manually. And of course, drone loses connection. And I turn back and start running to the car where my colleague is. And I'm like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? And all of a sudden he's like, he points up and the drone just followed me back and landed. Well, ironically enough, when it did it, it actually took the best footage of the day. So the lesson was like, we needed to automate the paths. And that's, you know, Litchi's the way to do it. There's not really you don't need an alternative, but it does everything for you through a UX UI. And then it keeps track of it. You can even import this path into Google Earth and preview it before you do it, so you can see it. Pretty powerful, and it's a must for all our drone pilots. Cool. Let's talk about SketchUp. So we do a lot of SketchUp work, a lot, and not only do we do a lot of SketchUp work, I develop apps for SketchUp to do that work. And we have a very specific workflow and pattern, and that's why we're able to pretty much create very large areas. And it doesn't matter whether we're working on a large area or a small area, the process that we use is the same. And here's the most important aspect of doing 3D at an LA firm. You have to be fast, because we don't have the same types of budgets that architects have, or civil engineers for that matter. So speed's essential, and the process is really, you know, building up a base, starting with the CAD, and then you get to here, you get here pretty quickly. So I'm gonna show you some of the tools that we use, if I can get this to open. And hopefully I'm not locked out of it. Come on. So I'll start here. So this is one of the tools that I developed and with a coder and a business partner, and it's called Placemaker. Placemaker lets you import in high resolution aerials, terrain, building models, and it also has options for AI generated surveys and 3D meshes, which are separate. But we start all our projects off with Placemaker. So for example, let's go to something like Toronto. We'll zoom in someplace in here, and I'm going to select an area. But I can select up to 10 square miles. That would be 10 square miles right there, I think. But yeah, so we could do large or all the way down and get super tight down here. And I'll import that in. And from there, I have various data sources that I can actually use. So I'm going to start with Nearmap. And Nearmap imports in high resolution imagery. So in this case, if we don't have drone data, which in a lot of cases we don't, we use Placemaker to get to this data. I can actually import in another level of data, just more credits. It does cost credits. While I do own this product, my business partner makes me pay for the credits because otherwise I would abuse it, and he's not wrong. So that's the first thing. It's still processing it in, there it goes. And then you have a really nice, crisp aerial. And it's actually probably better. They haven't updated this in a while, but it still looks good. And then from there, you can start importing in, you know, building massings, hopefully. Oh, there it goes. Roads. Should be quick. Paths and water, rail lines, and even subway systems, subgrade. So all of our projects, every single one of them starts with this. And we haven't really fully advertised this into the LA world. So we don't want the competition because then everybody might start using it. But at the same time, like, it's intended to be that kind of tool. But you can see how quickly I just built this base file. And then on top of it, if I do this correctly, I can export this back into AutoCAD. So what we do as well is we actually take all this information, and then I can export this out as a 3D model from SketchUp. No idea where it's going to put this. Let's just put it in the root here. Documents. And I think I should be able to open it and it would work. Let's go see. Documents. So
Daniel, so this is the placemaking app, is that correct?
Yes,
Yes, okay.
It's an extension for SketchUp and Revit. And yeah, it's our secret sauce because it really, you know, we share this information with the teams during proposals, and we already have some base information that we could start using. Everything's layered. So it's, again, like, you can't build the castle foundation without the castle without the foundation, and the foundation is this information.
And just so quickly, this placemaking app, where would students get it, and how much is it, and how do they actually then put it in as a plugin in SketchUp, so if they want to use it?
So it's suplacemaker.com, and you can download it for free, and then you can purchase credits. to access the information. There is a subscription version where some of the data is free. So like some of the building information, the road information, the water information is all free. Some of it, but then, and that's, you know, you can all have one license and then add credits to it and then pull the data. And I don't know how he's doing the billing for it now. But yeah, it's suplacemaker.com. Yeah, so that's one tool. I have another tool that if you want, it's public right now, and I'll show you this, but I'm not selling this right now. But what it is I will, if you want it, I can share the extension with y'all, and I'm looking for feedback. But it's a parametric streetscape. I'll just demonstrate it. It's easier. Should have probably saved that. So I'm going to draw a line that's about 2,000 feet long. Sorry, I'm using Imperial. Don't hold it against me. I know we're backwards here. Nope, that's not it. Saying it's up there. I see it. No. So it lets you build a street profile. It could be asymmetrical or symmetrical. We'll do symmetrical for speed. Total number of lanes and their width. If you want striping, solid striping. If you want parking, striping, and it could be parallel, diagonal, stall, head in, or shoulder. We'll do stall. You can include bike lanes with striping, double if you want it, and paint. Include a curb, do a European curb. Do a median. So raised concrete, planter median, striped median. You can then include a walk, detached walk, 12 feet and 15 feet. And then you could start adding, you know, tree lawn, planter, amenity zone. Add trees, tree grates. You can choose the trees. You have some options here. You can always add your own. And the reason why we created this particular tool is because the amount of time it actually takes to model this information is extraordinary and it's tedious. Again, it's also a foundational piece of what composes the streetscape. And, you know, having the ability to do this quickly instead of having to model this is wonderful. And then we can also add buildings, and I'll take down some of the really big tall ones here and the single family ones. And then you could save the profile. And then pray that it works. Software. It's thinking. There it goes. So then it builds this. And then on top of it, then I can do intersections. It's weird. This time I'm just going to load the same profile. And it will ask me if I want to add an intersection. And I'm going to be like, yes. Traffic lights. And we'll just build the profile. So the key to doing 3D modeling is these parametric tools. And AI too, because AI is coming into the play, but we'll talk about that in a second. The goal here is to, you know, I could sit here and try to show you SketchUp, but really it's to show you that there's so much technology that's kind of culminating into what's going on in the 3D world and how that's going to change the way we all practice. It already is. Right now, I'm actually doing a study as a consultant about the iPad version of SketchUp and iPad or tablet modeling in general. But here you could see that this is done. And again, it just saves us a lot of time. We could start using this for context. We also have in here a parking tool, because why not? Our world is really lots of parking, and it lets us build these kind of quick pads that we can use. And we use this stuff to cheat for all our renders. So this is Urban Paint. If you want the extension and try it out, just let me know, and I would be more than happy to share it and get some feedback from you on it. You know, in general, we use a lot of extensions. Another one that's going to come out next year, and this one's actually fairly significant, unless it really doesn't want to show up for me. How do you get rid of that? There it is. So SketchUp is notoriously bad for doing terrain. So we got together with a group of people and started coming up with some terrain tools, and they coded it, and now they're running with it, and hopefully it comes out next year. This is just an example of what you could do with it. And it's quick and dirty because this is an alpha version. But for example, let's say I wanted to draw a road along this whole path down here. There's no good way to do that in this program. So this is a road tool. And it graded the road in for me. Then I can go take this brush and I can go smooth it out. And honestly, as a landscape architect, I'm sculpting terrain and I absolutely love it. Take the smoothness down a little bit so it's not, still has some roughness to it. And that's just one thing that it's able to do out of many. Now, let's say I needed to model a house in there. And this tool doesn't work perfectly yet, but it will hopefully soon. It lets me kind of just grade it on the fly, quick and dirty. And I can always go back in there and fix it. And there's a bunch of other settings in here, but this is the kind of tools that you're going to start seeing coming out. I think not just for SketchUp, but for other, you know, Rhino already has a very powerful system for doing this, but the one that this one in particular is going to be for SketchUp, and then potentially with the ability to actually work on an iPad and model it with your fingers, which really something they're pushing for. And that's one of the things that's starting to occur is this trend for tablet and modeling and rendering. And you'd think that it wouldn't work, but the reality is that those devices are catching up in terms of their power and their ability to function. So that's one tool here, again, that you're gonna, and we already use these kind of alpha tools, we already use them for our practice on a pretty regular basis. So all our work is done on some level with it. And then you can see I can reconstitute the grades and push them in there. So lots of different tools in terms of what we do with SketchUp. And that's where I'm vested in. So I do research and development, I do rendering and modeling, I fly drones, and then I develop software.